What's up, everybody? Kyle here at Let's Talk Wax, and today we're going to be looking at 10 sleeper prospects from 2024 Bowman. I've been in the process of updating all of my autograph checklist breakdowns for the 2025 season over on Patreon, and we're going to be taking a look at 10 guys who I think do have a little bit of room for growth from a $5 auto out of 2024 Bowman. You're going to see two ranks here, a Juggernaut rank and a Let's Talk Wax rank. I'm going to cover those two ranks, and we're going to get into these 10 guys who I kind of like at the price of $5. Now, my Juggernaut ranking system is a stats-based ranking system I use with different weighted stats, including weighted on-base average, stolen bases per plate appearance, K percentage, swing strike percentage, WRC plus, and age level. I have ranks for all minor league prospects that had, I think, about 150 plate appearances and above in the minor league season. They're all ranked over on my Patreon page, and they're sorted by player and rank as well. So if you guys want to check out those 2024 finalized rankings, you can go to my Patreon page and do that. The other rank you'll see in this video is my Let's Talk Wax ranking system, and this is just my personal opinion. It is just based on not fact, but my personal opinion. And I always mention in my videos, I highly advise you guys to not kind of take what I say for gospel or what other people tell you as gospel. Do your own research. Maybe use my videos as helpful tools of kind of what to look for, or maybe what I look for, and maybe some things that you'd like to include on what you look for in prospects. But we all know by now, if you've been in this long enough, we cannot predict the future, and we cannot predict the future success of prospects. But these are just my personal opinions. They are tiered from elite to 7. And most of the prospects on this video, they are $5 autos, so they're going to be in the 3 to 3.5 range. I don't foresee any of these players becoming elite MLB MVP ceiling-based players by any means. I just do think that they do have a bit of potential and a bit of skill for just a $5 auto. But without further ado, let's get into our top 10. Jerron Elkins is going to kick this thing off. He's got a speed-power combo that is very popular in the prospecting community, but his swing and miss could deviate from that outcome. He was a bit old for the complex league in 2024, and I'm really concerned about his K rates in low A. Ramon Ramirez has put together 2 quality seasons in the DSL and complex league, hitting for some power while holding excellent K numbers. He's going to be a player to watch in 2025, but I wouldn't get excited until I see some performance in low A. And something I mention all the time in my videos is I don't put a ton of stock in complex league and DSL stats. Usually players can perform very well at both of those levels, and they can absolutely tank in low A. We've seen that happen time and time again throughout the history of Bowman Chrome baseball cards. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've learned to tread very lightly on DSL and complex league stats. So something to be very aware of before you spend 200, 300, 1,000, whatever kind of money you spend on a 17-year-old that's tearing up the DSL. Just know that a lot of trends have shown that lots of those players don't make it outside of high A. So something to think about as we go into this video, and if you choose to watch more of my content. Johan Fran Garcia is next on our list at number 8. He is an average defender behind the plate who had a great season in the complex league in 2023 before struggling significantly in low A as an 18-year-old late in the season. And just as I mentioned, what I mentioned before, we see the kind of the trend with Garcia here. Garcia could grow into a bit of thump, but if he doesn't pan out behind the plate, I'm not sure he'll have enough bat to play first base. He's still very young, and there's time to develop. The hit tool looks solid at this point. He was off to a hot start in low A in 2024 before he had the season-ending knee injury. So definitely a guy to keep an eye on. He had really good numbers, but it was over a very tiny sample size. And like I said, he did struggle with low A back in 2023. Tavian Josenberger is definitely an interesting prospect here. He's an elite runner with a very high, pretty high defensive ceiling for his speed, a pretty high power ceiling for his speed. He only hit 230, but he held some of the best K data on this checklist, walking nearly as much as he struck out in high A, and posting a career high swing percentage career low swinging strike percentage of only 6.3 this season. So some pretty good K numbers there. He's a bit old for the hobby, but if he continues to hit for power and steal bases at will, he could have much more of a higher than $5 auto ceiling. The last auction that I saw for Josenberger was a purple auto that sold for 99 cents. So the buy-in is super cheap. He's a super long shot, but 9 home runs and 50 stolen bases, the most on this list, is pretty impressive, whether he's 22 or 23. And to be able to buy a purple auto for 99 cents, that's pretty wild. Now, I do release this information early over on my Patreon page, so if the comps are a little off, sometimes those guys like to go grab these guys up, when I talk about sleeper prospects. So if the comps aren't exactly correct, please don't hammer me in the comments, because I do take my comps before releasing any information anywhere, and these were all legitimate. Some of these guys were selling for like $1 or $2, kind of like Josenberger. So they were definitely all very cheap autos. He was promoted to Double-A late in the season. This is back to Josenberger, but it wasn't a very large sample size to kind of hold him accountable for the poor numbers. He didn't do very well. MLB.com has him on the 60-day injured list, but I looked and looked and looked, and I couldn't find anything on why he was added to the 60-day DL. So if you guys know anything about Josenberger, if there's any Baltimore Orioles diehards out there that follow the minor league system very closely, if you could throw in the comments what's going on with him right now, that would be very pertinent information, because like I said, he is 22.9. He will enter the 2025 season at age 23, and he's getting up there with his age for the prospecting community. A lot of guys, I usually cut my prospecting content off at 24, so I don't usually, I always do, because it just becomes too many names to keep up with. But we're going to go on to our last one on this card, Emmanuel Tejada. Tejada, landed on the 60-day injured list undisclosed in July. He hit for average across 3 levels, but his speed may be impacting his batting average based on his ground ball to fly ball rates, something that I do see very often with young hitters in the DSL and complex league. Again, guys with lots of speed and high ground ball to fly ball rates, they're hitting the ball to infielders. They have immaculate speed. They're getting on base by hitting ground balls to infielders who may kick the ball, and the guy doing the DSL chart may give the guy a hit. I mean, that's probably why DSL stats are so inflated. Pretty sure that DSL stats are taken by DSL players most likely. But also, they're slapping balls in the 5-hole. There's a 16-year-old shortstop who can't make a backhand and throw on the run. So these young players with elite tier speed and high ground ball to fly ball rates and really high batting average, sometimes those batting averages tend to come way down in the upper minors when we've got legit defenders at shortstop, legit defenders at third base. And just all these ground balls, they're no longer hits, they're all out. So something to always watch with DSL complex league hitters, if they're hitting for a lot of average, definitely be sure to go over and check their stolen bases, if they've got a ton of stolen bases, and then check their ground ball to fly ball rates. If they got a ground ball to fly ball rate over 2, that's really not good for developing weighted on base average, hitting for power. That's just the high ground ball to fly ball rates are a really bad trend with young hitters. Now his complex league, like I said, back to Tejada, his complex league performance in 2023 was great, but he didn't really get a chance to shine in 2024 due to the injury. He looks like he could be a bit of a sleeper with his last sales ending right at $5. So he's one of the one that is actually right at $5. A lot of these guys, as I mentioned before, like Josenberger, they are way under $5. You can actually buy refractors and some color with some of these guys for $5. But that's going to wrap up our 10 through 6. Now, as I mentioned before, I do have a Patreon page if you guys want to help support the channel. I've got lots of data over there for you guys to check out. These are not the answers to prospecting. I do not have the answers for you guys. I'm not going to tell you who to buy, who to sell, and when to sell, but there's a lot of information over there that can help you make your own decisions, which I highly advise you to do. It's more fun in the long run. Anyway, I've got first Chrome and first autograph checklist breakdowns over there. I'm in the process of updating all those. going into the 2025 season. As I mentioned before, I've got team break guides for all the same releases since 2020. They've got who's got a first chrome and a first chrome auto per team, and the rookie card autos as well. So if you guys like to do a lot of breaking, you can kind of see what players fall into what teams for all releases since 2020. Of course, my Juggernaut rankings are over there, finalized from the 2024 season, so you can look at all, I think it was about 1,300 to 1,400 prospects that qualified for those. I've got them all ranked over there by name and by actual rank. I've got a top 100 Bowman Chrome autos under $50 list. That's probably about 2 months out of date, but I'm going to be updating that this offseason once I finish all of my first chrome autograph checklist breakdowns. I've got a top 100 Bowman Chrome autos list that I'll also update before we get into the 2025 season, and also our private Discord server, which is a lot of fun. We got about 400 plus active members, and my man Bobby Anderson does a great job moderating over there. He's actually going in depth with the Arizona Fall League right now, covering some daily stuff over there. So if you want to help support the channel, it's only $5 a month. Be sure to head over there, check out my Patreon page. I'll put a link to it in the video description. Leading off our top 5 is Rikuu Nishida. Nishida has a plus contact tool with the ability to impact the base pass with his speed. He's not going to hit for power based on the fact that he holds a career ISO under 100 and is a ground ball machine. Now, he's kind of one of the exceptions to the rule. He's a left-handed hitter. He does slap quite a bit. If you ever watched any video on Nishida, if you watched him like in the minor leagues or you watched him when he played at Oregon, he's got a really funky swing. He's got a kind of a big leg kick, a lot of movement. He's got he sinks into his back leg when he takes. It's just a lot of moving parts, but the kid makes a ton of contact. But you can definitely see within the swing that there's not any power built into what he does with his swing. So he's not going to hit for power. He's going to be a hit tool, speed tool type player. The reason he made this list was he climbed 3 levels from low A all the way to triple A this year, and his prices nearly tripled because of that. He was like a $1 auto. Nobody was even considering buying this guy until he got all the way to triple A. I'm not sure how his offensive profile is going to pan out at the major league level, or if it's even viable at the major league level, but we also have to consider that he plays for the Chicago White Sox. So there's a very good chance that he could reach the major leagues in that organization. I think that if I trained for 60 to 90 days, I could maybe pitch some relief innings at 40 years old, probably 15 years out of minor league baseball for the Chicago White Sox. Now, I would definitely get stroked. I would not have success, but if we're going to only win 30 games anyway, what's it matter? So Nishida could probably maybe see some major league time. I'm not sure if it's going to happen in 2025, but they did fast track him all the way to AAA. So definitely a guy to keep an eye on. But like I said, I don't know how high the ceiling is with the lack of power and how much hobby popularity he's going to get, because there's not going to be a lot of guys pumping dudes who don't hit bombs. So Jared Serna is at number 4. He was traded to the Miami Marlins as part of the Jazz Chisholm deal, working his way all the way up to AAA in that organization as well. He's been through a lot this season, playing for 5 different minor league teams, so I'm sure it's pretty difficult for him to get into any type of groove. He's another big sleeper out of this release. Now that his prices have dipped to the $5 mark, he was actually kind of expensive on release because most likely he was a Yankee with a little bit of upside, and that usually attracts a lot of attention in the hobby. But now he's with the Miami Marlins. He's not putting up like video game numbers, so people are kind of like, yeah, I'm going to stay away from this dude. But he's putting up very solid numbers for a $5 auto. He's played strictly shortstop too with the Marlins since the trade, and he's shown enough bat to have at least like an MLB Platoon role. I feel like based on his numbers, especially with the Miami Marlins. So maybe the upside with defense. The Yankee system was just so stacked with middle infielders, and Serna's getting some looks in the upper minors at shortstop too. So that's going to help possibly his offensive profile if he can stick at shortstop. He's hit 15 home runs. 15 plus home runs across 2 seasons and 39 doubles in 2024 alone. So he does have some gap-to-gap power, and he can hit the ball out of the park as well. If he can get the ball in the air more in 2025, we could probably see a significant power leap. He's just a bat to keep an eye on, and I really think that Jared Serna is too cheap right now. Definitely one of my favorite $5 autos on this list. He's a guy that's kind of difficult to find for $5, but I think if you kind of start bookmarking some auctions, if you start watching some auctions that maybe end in awkward times, you can definitely get in on Serna pretty cheap still. And the cool thing about the sleeper prospects is the chance of them panning out is probably like 1%, but if you only spend $15 on like 3 Serna autos, it's not like you're you're spending your whole paycheck on one dude and not paying it out. So it's fun to kind of play these nickel and dime games. I don't have enough money to go buy $1,500 cards for sure. I've got a family and I've got bills. So this is kind of why I created the sleeper content originally, because these were the guys that I would kind of buy and play with. You know, the $5 guys. I would stick to the bargain buys. I used to not even spend over $15 back in my early days of prospecting years and years ago. You know, a $50 auto was a very expensive auto, and I usually wouldn't spend over $15 on one guy. And then I remember like Byron Buxton was one of the first autos to kind of creep up to the $100 mark, and then it just kind of took off from there. So these are the fun buys for me, and like I said, you can't really hurt yourself too badly with a $5 auto. But I'm getting off track here. Boston Baro, another guy that I kind of like on this list. He was solid across a significant low A sample size this year prior to being promoted to double or high A to finish the year. He wasn't challenged much age level wise in low A, but he did hit for some average and held excellent K to walk numbers. Barrow looks like he could be a bit of a long shot sleeper, but that's going to depend on how much power he runs into over the next 2 years and how he handles the upper minors. Getting the ball in the air more could aid his power, his in-game power, but that's still a question mark right now. You know, getting the ball in the air more is a great if for tons and tons and tons of prospects. You know, I've been kind of tracking Welbin Francisca, and he's like I just told you guys not to buy people who didn't have very much low A experience. I did buy a bunch of Welbin Francisca earlier in the middle of this season, and you know he did get a late season call up or promotion to low A out of the kind. Went from DSL comp. He was in a complex league, did really well, and he got a late season promotion to low A. But if you check his ground ball to fly ball rate right now in the sample size that he had in low A, the season's over. Obviously, it was not very good for what I'm holding of Welbin Francisca. He hit a ton of ground balls, and you know I always say get the ball in the air more. It's just not built into some people's swings. We talk about this launch angle all the time and how hitters are working on launch angle, and you know where you make contact with the ball is pretty much your launch angle. I don't really understand how you can adjust launch angle. I guess you can kind of alter your swing a little bit, but I mean it's very difficult for these guys to kind of alter a swing, you know, to create more launch angle. I think some guys are just more ground ball prone. Some guys are a little more overmatched by pitchers at higher levels, and the ground ball rates tend to increase. So it's all very difficult to tell from stats unless you're watching these guys play every day. But onward with Jesus Rodriguez. When I did my top 25 video on this release several months ago, I did have someone comment about why Jesus Rodriguez wasn't on the top 25. He was definitely a guy who was very fringy for me then, and he's continued to perform pretty well. He was at the 3 to 3.5 Let's Talk Wax rank, and I think with my top 25 stuff, it was a pretty solid release. I'd only kept the guys that were 3 or higher ranks. I think he might have been on the honorable mention list, but he's hit close to or above 300 at every level with 100 plus plate appearance sample size in his career. He's very contact prone, holds excellent K to walk data, kind of fringy power, 9 homers in 2023 and 10 in 2024 between high A and double A. He's also got some defensive versatility, catching reps. He gets reps at catcher, first base, second base, third base, and left field over his career. So we could kind of look at maybe like a utility bat here, that, you know, maybe a bench player. But, you know, if these guys even get called up to the major league level, their cards are not going to be $5. And that's kind of what I do a lot of my... I haven't really had much time to buy. The last buy I did make was on some Brady House cards, and I don't necessarily love him as a prospect, but I figured towards the end of the season the Nats may give him a shot with a call-up. I definitely think he's a guy who could get a call-up in 2025. I got him for super cheap, you know, and I try to look for guys that I think could get called up to the major league level, because that's the easiest way, you know, to have kind of success in this hobby, is finding guys that get called up, and I sell immediately on call up. I do not waste any time. I did it with Kevin Alcantara about a month ago. I sold all my Alcantaras the day and the day after he got called up, you know, with the Chicago Cubs. So I don't have strong hands. I don't wait to see what happens at the major league level, because usually it is not very good. These players take tons of time to adjust. So one of the tricks that I usually use when I do find really good deals, I say, you know, are these guys going to have a call up in the next year or two? And if they're performing pretty well in the high or double A and triple A, you know, it's not like it's a big risk. like they're doing okay in low A and they never make it out of high A because they've got a 35% K rate in high A. So definitely some things to keep in mind there. I'm continuing to go off course here on my sleeper prospect video. That's going to bring us to number 1. And you can see Jesus Rodriguez, Boston Baro, and Gino Groover. These are all guys who ranked very high on the Juggernaut rank system. Baro was at 112, Jesus Rodriguez at 85, Gino Groover at 108. So 3 guys who played very well into the Juggernaut formula. He missed some time in 2024 with injuries, but still managed to climb his way to AA after an early September promotion. I'm pretty shocked, like I said, with Groover that he's got a $5 auto based on his numbers. He doesn't strike out or swing and miss. He's hit for above average contact at every level and managed to poke out 10 home runs in 230-ish plate appearances this season, including 3 in AA. So, I mean, 10 homers and 230 plate appearances. If you do the quick math on that, over 460 plate appearances, that's 20 home runs. Now, I'm not saying he's going to automatically have 20 home run power in 2025. I'm just saying 10 home runs is pretty good, and I think a lot of people overlook the sample size where they see 10 home runs, but they don't realize that he only had 230 plate appearances, which is half as many plate appearances as a lot of these minor leaguers. You know, you look at Nishida's got 587 plate appearances. Serna's got these guys almost have 600 plate appearances this year that stayed healthy the whole year. So, I mean, if we're doing some ratio math on that, that's 25 home runs. And like I said, I'm not saying he's going to hit 25 home runs in 2025. I'm just saying 10 home runs is pretty solid for a 230 plate appearance sample size. But he's definitely my favorite sleeper on this list. I don't think that his cards are going to stay at the $5 mark for very long. He's one of those kind of fringe guys that you have to work pretty hard to find the $5 auto, but it's definitely out there if you can, like I said, find some auctions that end at weird times, or definitely go for the auctions. The buy it now best offer, you're not going to probably get any of these guys for $5. But definitely try, you know, I mean, if you can find some good deals out there. People may not pay attention to people or players that are outside the top 100 MLB prospects, or, you know, whatever mainstream. These guys are way off the charts. So hopefully this video helped. I did throw in some stuff about prospecting too. I tried to, you know, help and give you guys some tips. But like I said, these are not locks. These are not guys I'm saying you need to go buy. This is just some information that you need to use, or you could use to kind of help you say, hey, you know, there's the guy that could have some upside, or that guy's complete trash. I don't know why he makes these videos. So let me know either way what you think in the comments. One more quick plug for the Patreon page if you guys want to help support the channel. It's only $5 a month over there, and there's lots of data that's about to get updated over the course of this off season to keep you guys busy and to keep you somewhat organized with all the chaos that goes on with all these prospects and all their stats. So check it out, $5 a month if you want to help support the channel. Links in the video description. And a quick huge shout out to all my level 3 Patreon subscribers. You guys rock. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I hope y'all have a great day.